It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Ika Krispantari and Pei Hua Yu. Hello, congratulations, and welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I want to get right to it. I'd like you to answer the question what the state of the energy transition in your respective country is, and along with that, what the focus of your BETD Media Fellow Competition piece was. Ika Krispantari, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Ika. I'm the editorial head of The Conversation Indonesia. I can say that covering renewable energy in Indonesia has become my obsession. Why is it an obsession? Because I found the way that the government handling its renewable energy is a bit puzzling. So a bit background probably. Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous country, with a population more than 260 million people, and it is the largest economy in Southeast Asia. And it also has abundant renewable energy resources. But the problem, and after that, we can see that why it has so many abundant renewable energy, because it's a tropical country. We are blessed with all year-round sunshine, and we also an archipelagic country with more than 17,000 islands, and we do have plenty of water resources across, perfect for hydro plants. And we also lying on the ring of fire, and we do have like, I think 40% of geothermal potential in the world. But the problem is that the renewable energy in Indonesia remains untapped. So it's kind of like puzzling. It has become a problem since I was an energy journalist back then, I think a decade ago, where the government has set some sort of like a target to increase like the share of renewable energy use to 23% by 2025. But as we know, for 4 years to the line, we can see that we are nowhere near, like solar energy, for example. It only accounts for like less than 1% at the moment. And it's mostly because, so this is one of the things that we also try to reveal in our report. So I collaborate with Pei Hua here. So we understand that the reason is because the Indonesian policymakers sort of like still focus on developing fossil energy, because we find that they don't see the benefit of developing renewable energy, because they only see that they can get the money from the fossil energy. So it's no wonder why the coal still accounts like almost more than 50% in our national energy portfolio. And we also discussed in our report that during the pandemic, where maybe other countries see some kind like a silver lining, where they see the uptick in the use of renewable energy. In our report, we found that the pandemic is sort of like we can see that crash Indonesia green energy dream, because we do have some plans to promote, we do have plans to issue some new policy to promote renewable energy use, but somehow because the pandemic, everything has been put on hold. And yeah, because the government is still focusing on handling the pandemic. And another thing that maybe the good part is we also find these inspiring stories from individuals, where we find people who initiatively, like they install solar panel in their houses and offices by themselves. So this is like we try to investigate the role of civil society in supporting this green energy cause. So, and I believe this offers some kind like a hope, like for Indonesia green energy dream, despite the government's poor efforts. Yeah. And I will present this full project tomorrow, in another session with Pei Hua, just in case you are interested to hear it more. Maybe that's all.
We are interested. Thank you so much for that. I would like also to ask Pei Hua about her contributions to the piece. Pei Hua Yu, I think you are from Taiwan, but you've been reporting on China. Is that correct? Oh, Pei Hua, I can't hear you. Perhaps you are muted.
Okay.
Now I can hear you. Great. Thank you.
Yes, I'm currently based in Taiwan and write for publications around the world. And my beat in journalism is the Chinese infrastructure and investment projects outside China. And so I think reporting on China's global engagements is interesting because the topic is complex and consequential, and China is never a single entity or a coherent group in which every person and corporation acts the same. So that's why there are many. I found there are many stories, interesting stories to develop in this beat. And so here I would like to share about the role of China in the energy sectors overseas. So in terms of the coal projects, Chinese financial institutes together contribute the largest share of financing for coal power projects around the globe, followed by their South Korean and Japanese counterparts, according to the Global Coal Public Finance Tracker. Therefore, much of the efforts by the global civil society organizations that work on climate issues has been focusing on hastening the Chinese as well as the South Korean and Japanese institutes to shift away from coal. And in terms of the field of renewable energy technology, China has leading companies in the solar and wind energy sectors. However, this does not mean that Chinese corporations dominate the entire sectors. So let's take a look at the solar technology closely. According to the recent research by Greenpeace East Asia, Chinese solar energy corporations are leading players in the silicon material, silicon wafers, cells, modules, and other upstream and midstream activities. However, most of the Chinese companies still lack the advantage in much of the downstream activities, such as PV power plant operations and maintenance and PV panel recycling. Therefore, when we look at Indonesia, a country where developing renewable energy projects remain difficult, most of the existing solar and wind projects are not run by Chinese corporations. Instead, the largest projects are constructed by Singaporean and European companies with a longer history of developing projects, or by state-owned companies with support from their governments. And so the article Ika and I work on, I write a story in the Chinese language published in a magazine called Energy Observer. And the article targets the energy professional in China. The article provides details about why it is difficult to develop renewable energy projects in Indonesia and the conditions of the existing successful renewable projects and the regulatory moves that we can watch in 2021. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Pei Hua. We are almost to our break, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to stay with our two young journalists before we do. I want to ask you both, can you give us any more insights on sort of the outlook for what's happening with the energy transition in China and Indonesia? Pei Hua, I'll come right back to you with that question. Any further insights you'd like to share with us?
So in the last year, we have seen increasing awareness in the East Asian region about the importance to shift away from coal and to invest in renewables. A recent example is that China has told Bangladesh that it will not fund coal mines and polluting power plants. And so in this year, we can expect that the Chinese government and financial institutes and the Chinese companies will face higher peer pressure to hasten their shift away from coal, and so we can see if more institutes and Chinese institutes and policymakers will follow suit and what their policies and actions are.
Thank you. And let's go to Ika Krismantari. Can you give some insights on what's happening in terms of the outlook for the energy transition where you are in Indonesia? Ika, are you still with us?
Actually, to be honest, nothing really happens actually at the moment, because like the government is the most important thing for them is now the pandemic. As you know that Indonesia has now like most COVID-19 cases in Southeast Asia, and also it has the highest fatality rate. So the focus of the government is almost completely there. And we can't really see what the changes is happening like from the above. But we can see from our report, we can see that these changes starting to happen with the individuals who has their own awareness to save the environment, So we interviewed this lady who just like spent a lot of money to install a solar panel because it doesn't come cheap in Indonesia, just to make sure that her children can breathe fresh air in the future. So I think that's sort of like a hope that we can, that can be rely on. And I can hope as a journalist, I do hope that I can raise this issue continuously. Maybe not at the moment where it's probably is kind of like a mission impossible right now, but I hope I can keep, with my reports and my analysis published in the media, we can keep the discussion going, because renewable energy is not less important than pandemic actually, because it's also important for the future of our country. And the fate of our future generation is on, depending on how we treat renewable energy, I believe.
Ika Krismantari, those are inspirational words. Thank you, inspirational words. Thank you also to Pei Hua Yu. Congratulations to the both of you. I also hope that there's lots of fresh air for everyone to breathe all over the globe and in the future.